Hey everybody, it's me, Gregory Mannarino. Welcome to my post-market wrap-up. Today, Thursday, December 20th, 2018. People, I'm going to talk about a few things in this video that are very important, and I hope you will share this video. I want this video to end up in front of the right people because something radical has to happen, and it has to happen now. What am I talking about? If you have even the slightest idea of what is going on here, not just in the United States, but on a global scale, we are existing in an environment that we have never seen before. There's been nothing like this in the history of the world. Specifically, we are existing underneath a bubble of debt that is so monumental, it is so huge that when this bubble bursts, it's going to seem like a biblical event. We have put ourselves in such a dangerous spot that when this bubble bursts, and we're on a path for this debt bubble to burst at full force, it is going to have an effect on human life greater than a nuclear exchange. That's how serious it is, but you're not supposed to know that. We have and continue to borrow from the future in greater and greater amounts just to sustain where we are. World central banks working in concert with their world leaders to keep interest rates suppressed for now over an entire decade has created this environment we are in. It should be no secret to you, if you live here in the United States or anywhere around the world, why governments continue to bury themselves in more debt and deficits continue to get worse. There's no end in sight here. Now, this debt bubble has allowed to manifest a completely 100% fake environment that most people believe is real. It is not real. It's being sustained and suspended on the back of something that's not even on the elemental chart. It does not exist. What am I specifically referring to? On this planet Earth, right now, as I am doing this video blog, the actual amount of printed cash from the Federal Reserve that exists is about $1.5 trillion. The rest of it, it's not on the elemental chart. It's not real. Meanwhile, here in the United States, we are supposedly in $22 trillion worth of debt. Does not make any sense to you. These numbers are not real anyway. The real numbers are in the hundreds of trillions on a global scale. Now, if you were to take into account the derivatives connected to this, it's probably in the quadrillions. No one is smart enough to actually know how many layers of derivatives exist. Okay, we have a debt-based economic model. The debt-based economic model demands that cash be borrowed into existence in greater and greater amounts. It cannot stop. The moment we stop, the moment we say, okay, we're not spending any more money, the moment we have an actual budget that is put together by our leaders that we stick to, this all ends. We cannot have a balanced budget. This is why we don't have one. This is why debts and deficits continue to explode. Our politicians cannot tell you this, but unfortunately, these are the facts. This is how it works. People yell and scream, we got to stop spending. We have to stop borrowing. We can't. That's the truth. That's the nature of the beast. This beast is starting to rear its ugly head, okay? The environment we are in with regard to the stock market, with regard to the debt market, with regard to housing, everything in between is not real. And incredible lengths are going on, I mean, right under our noses to keep the environment fake. I mean, today alone we found out that 3 more banks have gotten caught rigging the bond market. Metals rigging is off the Richter scale. This has been going on for a very long time. It's common knowledge. Nothing ever happens. No one gets arrested. You all understand that. All right. What is Greg leading to? Very simply, we are existing in an environment of lies across the board. And most people, again, believe that this is a real environment. The fact of the matter is, the divide and conquer strategy is working. That is the two-party system here in America, having these people hate these people and blaming each other for what's going on. It's not our fault. People, I want you to ignore every single channel out here on YouTube and everywhere else that is trying to foster an environment of hatred between one party or another party. We are all part of the human race. It's time for us to come together, all right? And it's imperative that this happens because we are now staring down a terrible event, okay? So stop it. Stop with the partisan nonsense. It's no party's fault. The truth of the matter is, every single one of us has participated willingly in this disgusting thing that is about to unfold. But there's a way to fix it. And this is why I want you to share this video. And it's going to sound very radical, what I'm about to say. The current environment is not sustainable. It should be clear to you. We're watching the world slow down right now dramatically. We're grinding to a halt. Now, we're also existing in a cycle environment, and we've seen this before. Every 10 or 15 years, we watch the stock market burst, and when that happens, all of the major institutions, what they do, very simply, is they start betting against their clients, and all the cash that's been put into this market via a 401k or some other investment plan simply gets transferred from the masses to the 1%. It repeats over and over again. 2008 was the last one. Prior to that was the dot-com bubble. You can go back and look at every single bubble. But this one, there's nothing like it. Never been anything like it in the history of the world. Over 10 years now, for over a decade, world central banks, working with their respective leaders, have forced this environment. Easy money, buying everything in sight, devaluing the currency, devaluing the debt. We're watching the yield curve right here in our country flatten out. Why is that happening? No one wants to hold long-term debt. So you're getting this flattening out of the yield curve, soon to be a full-on inversion. What that means is the 10-year yield will yield less than, let's say, a short-term bond, like a 2-year. You understand? We've seen this before. 2008, big meltdown. .com, big meltdown. Same thing. So what's going on right now? World leaders are still wanting their central banks to keep doing the same things. That is, keep rates suppressed, keep printing cash out of thin air. The environment is not real. Now, no one wants to hear this, but here are the facts. One way or the other, people are going to pay for this, and they're going to suffer. One way may be a little less painful than the next, and that's what I want to talk about and suggest to you. I would love to hear from you on this, and again, please share this video. I'm getting to the point. We cannot continue to do the same thing and expect a different outcome. For example, our president wanted the Federal Reserve to not raise rates. We got a 25 basis point hike to the federal funds rate yesterday. President didn't want that. He wanted the rates to stay flat. Wanted more cash to be printed out of thin air. I don't blame the man. He doesn't want this to come down on his watch. But it's going to come down, and it's going to come down hard on you. Everywhere around the world, you cannot escape what's coming. If you watched the action today in the stock market, you watched stocks sell off, you watched the dollar lose value, you watched crude oil fall off of a cliff. Incidentally, cryptocurrencies caught a really nice bid today. Gold and silver also bid higher. So again, I've explained this to you. We get risk on environments and then risk off environments, and then these flip. They flip back and forth. You got to get yourself in the right spot before this unfolds. However, again, we've never been here before. This event, when this unfolds, has the potential to lead to the greatest depression the world has ever known. It will eclipse the event of 1929. That's the truth. Again, it's so distorted. There's a way to fix this, and it will cause a lot of pain. But it's the lesser of two evils. Again, put this together in your own head. Everything that they're doing right now is not working. We're watching a global slowdown. We're watching central banks keep rates at zero. We're watching malinvestments across the spectrum and bubbles to form. How do we fix this? Very simply. Okay. Very simply, yes. But it's a radical idea, but it must be done. And the president needs to act now. Here we are. Again, we just got a 25 basis point hike to the federal funds rate. All right. Now, what's probably going to be the knee-jerk reaction as this gets worse is rates will start to get lower. We've seen this before. It's going on right now in other parts of the world. 0 and even negative interest rates to try to keep it propped up for a little bit longer. Okay. Now, we all understand that interest rates where they are dictating the value of debt. It's worthless. It's worthless. You understand? That's why it's yielding nothing. Okay. How do we change that? How do we make the debt actually worth something to get the yield curve to normalize a little bit, and more importantly, to preserve your purchasing power so we do not end up in a super inflationary event or a hyper inflationary event? Well, a couple of radical things have to happen. Number one, and whoever does this first, and I'm hoping it's going to be our president, our government, needs to back the currency with a fraction of gold. It has to happen. If it doesn't happen, it remains a unit of debt, period. We will watch its value deteriorate. We will end up in a hyperinflationary event at one particular time. I've explained this to you over and over again. If our president wants to end the Federal Reserve, which many of you think he does, how do we do that? We take away their power. How do we do that? Well, world central banks, including the Federal Reserve, their product is debt. If we take their product, the dollar, looking at the Federal Reserve, and now instead of making it a unit of debt, turn it into a at least partial unit of wealth by backing it with gold. Only a fraction. It would only take a fractional reserve to do this. This steals power immediately away from the central banks, and they'll all have to follow suit. Why not let it start with us? That's step number one. Back the currency with gold, a fraction of gold. It has to be gold. Why? Gold is the most stable asset the world has ever known. You want to go back in history and look at it? It's the truth. It's the most stable asset, period. Silver's great, massively undervalued, but it's very volatile the way it trades. We don't want that. You need something stable. That's number one. Number two, we need the Federal Reserve, sit down for this one, to raise the federal funds rate a full percentage point. I know what you're saying. The market's going to melt down. There's going to be a big crash. Well, you know what? It's happening one way or the other. But if we actually make the debt worth something, well, you know what? You'll start to see the initial knee-jerk. This is what will happen. If the Federal Reserve were to say, we're going to raise rates 1 full percent, the federal funds rate, 1 full percentage point from where it is right now, the stock market will lose a third in the blink of an eye, and it will probably fall further. You might even get the stock market cut in half within a very short period of time, a couple of days. But it sure as hell beats the alternative. I believe that this market, in order to reach a fair value in this environment, would need to lose 2/3 of its value to be real. So, either way, people are going to take a hit with regard to their 401ks, with regard to everything else. But once this settles in, once the world realizes that the US dollar is now king, backed by gold, a fraction, just a fractional reserve of gold, the dollar becomes worth something. It's not a unit of debt anymore. It's now a unit of wealth. You preserve your purchasing power by having that. We will not watch the dollar evaporate into nothing. By raising rates here, the debt will become worth something as well. The combination of a dollar backed by a fractional reserve of gold and rates normalizing has the potential to change everything. Sure, it will make stocks less attractive, and the stock market would probably be cut in half. But it beats the alternative. People, we need a real leader here. Yesterday, I alluded to the fact that if our president were to level with the American people and explain to them the situation, we can handle it. I really think we could. If the president were to come out and, let's say this idea that I just put out here, backing the dollar with a fraction of gold, raising interest rates to a normal level, and explain to people that they were going to take a hit in other aspects like their 401k plan, beats the alternative of having it lose 2/3 of its value with regard to the stock market. Well, I think people would understand that, because this environment, people, if we don't do anything, if we sit here and do nothing, we are going to face a worst case scenario. Again, let me put a little light on this. When the debt bubble pops, it will unfold in the same manner as a nuclear event. People around the world will lose their lives because it comes down to a resource problem, a resource issue. Not that we don't have enough resources, but because we transact in debt units. If these debt units evaporate in value, okay, how do we transact? You understand? We need a mode of transaction that has real value, and that would be a fractional reserve currency. And we need to normalize interest rates. Take away the central bank's power by backing the currency with gold, a fraction of it. You know, does it sound like too crazy of an idea, what I'm talking about? I don't think so. But only a real leader would implement a strategy like I just said. Only a real leader would sit here and explain things to people. Look, you're facing this or this. You choose. There's no other way out. Okay, I would love to hear from you on this. Ponder these things I've explained to you. Think about it. If you believe it's a good idea, I would love to hear from you. Share this video. Get it out there. Maybe the president will see this. Anyway, I hope he does. People, look, I'm going to let you all go. And I love all of you. I mean that from the heart. And I don't want to see people suffer. People are going to suffer one way or the other. But my scenario, the one that I just outlined for you here, as radical as it might sound, would work. It would work to stave off a complete, utter, global meltdown. Will there be pain? Sure. But I think it's the look, I'm losing the ability to talk here. The alternative to this is too horrible to contemplate. With that said, I can't wait to read the comments. And please share this video. Get it out there. I love you all. Truly. See you tomorrow.